All right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. And, well, you know what? It's not the same without the music. At least that's how I feel. So we're going to do the intro all over again. Actually, you know what? Nah, we're just going to do it this way because I don't know. It's a music thing. So let's get this thing queued up because I just, there it is. All right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. That is right, we are back. It has been almost a year since we have done an episode, and well, it's time to get back to work. Baja Rally is in the books. Sonora Rally just on the horizon, coming up at the end of March, or in the March timeframe. I'll look up the dates and get you those coming soon, because we got a lot of stuff between now and then, including this little tiny rally that's been hosted in Saudi Arabia now for a few years. That is right, it is the 2026 Dakar Rally that's going to be coming in hot. Almost there. We are almost there to that one. So turn the music down, or should I say turn the party down a little bit here. Definitely been having a lot of fun trying to get things organized. If you guys have been following us on the YouTube channel, you've seen we have been doing the Rally Works garage side of the house. And basically, well, we got all this stuff in the garage. We might as well just get it organized in some kind of fashion. Chasing Waypoints obviously has always been about the more rally side of things and dual sport. And I figured, well, if we're going to be doing some technical stuff, maybe we kind of, branch it off a little bit. So that was the plan with that one. If you guys haven't followed, it's been on the same YouTube channel. It's just a different playlist. Encourage you guys to check that out if you haven't already. But more to come on that one. We've got the Cove getting ready to be put to use. Finally, I don't even want to go back and look at the episodes where I first started saying that, hey, the Cove is almost ready to go. It is ready to go. It has been ridden. Working on a battery setup for the Rally Comp on the unit. Mike and the team over at Rally Comp getting it updated to the latest firmware. We're going to have some how-to videos coming on that as well. Obviously, if you do rallies in North America and actually now a few of the rallies around the world, you'll see the Rally Comp being in use. I also moonlight with the Rally Comp team doing their tracking and helping their event organization stuff. So that is always a lot of fun. Get to look over a lot of events out in the middle of nowhere, see tons of satellite images and different road books and things like that. So it's a really, really cool experience to be doing that. We're going to do a video too on the office breakdown. This last rally, I tried out a new setup. It actually had debuted or did it at the KTM rally, KTM Adventure Rally, and used it for tracking the event that they did there. They had the Team Adventure Challenge that they did. That was really, really a cool concept. Quinn Cody and the team over there putting that together, which was really cool. We'll talk more about that maybe in another episode. But I'm going to show you guys the office setup. I got a lot of comments. So something that I guess is very prevalent in this industry, I guess, is we got a lot of guys that travel for work and they do a lot of different things. So I got a lot of comments on the setup. So I want to share that with you guys so you guys can see what we do. I can show you basically our side or my side of the screen when it comes time to tracking an event and what goes on behind that. Give you guys a little bit of behind the scenes look on that one. So video forthcoming on that one. Should be here in the next week or so. But with that being said, let's go back a little bit. Let's rewind a couple of weeks. Baja Rally getting done. 6 stages, and man, this was definitely a little bit more of a brutal rally. I saw some of the videos. I actually spent almost 2 hours yesterday just watching one of the stage videos from one of the competitors. Marvin Donovan has got that on YouTube, which was really awesome to see and really get a little bit more of a firsthand glimpse at kind of a different side. You're not going to see a video like that at length from one of the top riders. That is kind of a different setup. They're there. It's business. Not that Marvin was not there on business, but when you see a video of, like, say, the winner, Karen Naran of the rally, if you see a video of his, you expect top speed. You expect these, just like, how does he ride this stuff that fast? And seeing Marvin's video really kind of toned it down and brought it back to, like, well, I could be doing this. Now, here's the important part about that is it does still take the physical shape. You got to be in shape for that. And, well, I've been, you guys saw the intro, I've been working on that part of it. But not only that, it takes, obviously the mental side. It takes a lot of different pieces to come together to be able to do that. And not only that, but Marvin did put on a really, really good show at the rally. He did have a good showing there. Was one of the top guys favored to win by Tony Palandrani, of course. And it was a back and forth definitely on that one. And getting high, placing high in those stages, when you see the video, you see, well, he's not pinned everywhere. No, he's just not making mistakes, and he is just riding his ride, and he's picking people off, people that have been getting lost, people that have been slowing down more, whatever it is. And the terrain, albeit there was a lot of ruts and stuff like that. They did get some rain on the peninsula, and, well, I mean, the ranches are still open, so they got to they got to do their thing. And so there's going to be ruts. There's going to be things that you got to watch out for. But, again, it's Baja, and it is rough. And yeah, there's some beautiful scenery. So the reward, for having to deal with all of this is getting to see all of that. So there's that delicate balance of it. And this year's event, there was a lot of comments made about it. That, yeah, it was rough, but, it's the same thing. It's Baja. I mean, one person's rough is another person's like, dude, that was the easiest stuff ever. That was so much fun. I've never, ridden those roads. It's, again, the common theme year after year after year at that event has been the same thing. People telling me, guys that have raced down there for years and years and years, and going, I've never been down that road, and the team over there, and the team has expanded. Back when this thing got started, it was Scotty Bloom, and his crazy idea. And then you have the general director, Mauricio Parra, tagging along and making it happen. And then the gears have changed. Now you've got a bigger team behind them. Mauricio's kind of taken the front step on the rally, and then directing the rally and making things happen. You've got Willem Abanon as race director, and then David Pearson for the last couple of years has been doing racer relations. And so it really has rounded out the team, and now there's more departments, there's things going on in the organization, and it shows. The rally, the timing was on point, the road books were ahead of schedule, everything was just done, and everything, and one of the biggest things, and actually from the rally comp side of it that takes pressure off of it, my job when it comes to working with rally comp and doing that stuff is, a lot of the times, is I check the road books for compliance. I am the last person to see the road book before the chips and the programming for the unit gets created. And so having more time with those, is crucial. It allows me to go through it. And if there's a doubt, there's a lot less pressure. Not that, it's not rocket science, but there's just rules. And you have to watch out on this kind of stuff, because as I refer to it, it's like painting a wall, right? We've all done that. You paint a whole wall, and everything is like, oh man, this is okay, cool. Yeah, I got it. And then you leave and you come back an hour later, and there's a spot on there that you're just like, how did I even miss that? Like, it's just blatant. And so that kind of stuff can happen. You start looking at these things for a while, and you might glance over something that's mission critical on these road books. So you have to be very, very careful with that kind of stuff. So the more time spent with the road book, one of the things that Scotty and Mauricio and the team And I should say, really, Willem and David Pearson, who were all working on the road books along with Scotty on it, is the testing with it. They adamantly test with the rally comp to make sure, and we've talked about this before in previous episodes, is that they adamantly test with these devices, with this device, to make sure that they have a successful stage. That is a very, very crucial part of doing all of this, because that's your timing and scoring thing. And for those of you that are not, really kind of familiar, is when you go hunting down this waypoint, you have a 15 meter, basically, or 30 meter make radius on this thing. And so that loop, that 30 meters, is not much room if it's off a little bit on the satellite image. If you just drop it with the satellite image and then don't go actually run through there, or maybe in this particular case, the road in that one spot has become impassable, and so there's been an alternate road that's been built on towards the inside. Well, if you don't go through and test it with an actual live rally comp file, with a live file, and really you should say that is with any device like that, because there are many devices that are out there. Obviously, I'm partial to rally comp, and well, there's none as good as that. Changed my mind. If you go through that section and you've never actually tested it with a live unit, with a live tracking device, then how are you 100% sure that you're going to pick up that waypoint? Now, you might get lucky, and it just so happens to be 15 and a half meters on the inside line. Well, by a half a meter, your competitors are going to miss it. And if it's a right-hand turn and they're hugging that inside, right, depending on how they took that corner, they might blow past the waypoint. Now, then whose fault does it become? Yeah, that's what, it's kind of like, well, did we do testing? Well, it's right there. It's not, well, we can see, so I don't know. So there's a lot going on with that. But anyway, the gist of it is that it was, the event went really, really well. They've been doing a lot of the videos, a lot of the media stuff. We've got a lot of stuff coming. Before I fired up this episode, I was thinking, man, I haven't really talked to them about, I had a really good meeting with Mauricio, the general director of the rally, and we were talking about a lot of different stuff for next year, and we're really not sure how much of that I can discuss quite yet, but there's definitely some things in the works already. And our meeting occurred 4 days after the rally ended. So, I came back about 6 days after the rally ended. So not bad. They're already working on the next year's event. I'm sure finalizing some of the stuff on this year's event, but also already working towards the next year's event. So it was really, really cool. Of course, you had your stages around Catavina. You had the marathon stage down to Bay of LA, or LA Bay, Bahia de Los Angeles, whichever one of the three pronunciations you like or phrases you like. So they're back. And then, of course, finishing it up in Mission Santa Maria. And then the cherry on top, which a lot of the competitors made a lot of comments that are like, this is what I wanted to do down here, which was the beach run coming back up to the hotel. Off the clock, they had already finished the stage. This was just more for fun. They had some dunes. They had this long beach rip back up to the hotel. So it was really, really, really cool. A lot of the competitors enjoyed that side of it. So I'm thinking that, this event obviously has grown over the years. My really first start in rally here in North America, and where I actually met the rally comp team before I started working kind of directly with them, or volunteering directly with them, was at Baja Rally several years ago, actually in 2016. So if I make it to this year's coming event, it will be 10 years that I've been working with this rally and the rally comp team. So I'm looking forward to it. It's I'm going to say it's kind of a goal, but I'm kind of switching it up here. So the idea that I had, and this was something that I was talking to Mauricio with, and I talked to a couple of people. I'll let a little bit out of the bag about this, and I get to sit on this side reporting on those things. And then not only that, but it's one of those, well, what about actually competing in the rally? And what about, all of these things start to go. And then, of course, all of you guys and all you guys that tune into this, and then I get to see you at the rally and then keep asking me the question. So when are you going to line up for one of these? And two things on that I have to say is, yeah, you guys planted the bug in my head. Okay, well, what about lining up for one of these things? And then the other side of that, and that's kind of, that's really, really cool, and year after year is the same thing, is how many of you guys here in North America that tune in to the show and actually, and then come out to the events and say hello and all of that kind of stuff. And for me, it's a really good feeling. And I enjoy talking to everybody and finding out about how, how did your rally go? How was the stage? How was all of that stuff? Because, what you go out and do, not a lot of people do. And we want to get more people into it, but you have to think about, like, I'm very big in my personal career, and what I do about setting that expectation, and what is, this is some of the things that could happen, and this is some of the things to expect. When I tell you or when it happens, I don't want it to feel like brand new news. I want it to be from a place of, I kind of told you so. I, not in a mean way, but it's like, remember we prepped for this. So what am I talking about prepping for this? So the idea that I have, or what I'm going to be doing, is we're going to switch gears just a little bit. And that switch is going to be basically me preparing to do Baja Rally. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not necessarily, I want to race and I want to be a competitive person and I want to win and I want to see how I could stack up against other people. That doesn't really drive me as much as the adventure side of it goes. So what I'm going to do, and this is going to be kind of like a follow along, and I guess I can announce at least this part of it, is because whether or not I take a green flag on stage one or at the stage one at Baja Rally or anything like that, the idea is to prepare anyway to do it. And, for me, even something like going out and verifying the road books a few weeks before the event to make sure, again, as I was talking earlier about, testing with the rally comp unit and going through it. And from a more rookie perspective, how is the road book linked together? Where's that weak note? Where did I maybe struggle with it? Providing that feedback. So this is something that I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but a majority of the rallies do some form of testing of road books before the actual event. And so that is a crucial part of it. That was what we were talking about just a little bit ago. So my idea and where we're headed with this and what I'm planning on doing is that it's going to be kind of a little bit of everything. So I know that from the rally side of it and what I get to see, I try and be a very observant person and listen and really kind of get a pulse on how things are going. And one of the biggest things, and I've talked about it before on the show, is rally side of it, the navigation side of it, does take a lot of mental energy and focus to do it. Now, it's not rocket science. The notes are always going to be the same, right? You've got your distance, you've got your drawing, and then you've got a special note or some kind of instruction part of it. There are thousands and thousands of notes, thousands of I'm not going to say thousands, but at this point in my lapse or in the time that I've been doing this, I've looked at a few hundred road books for sure. And so now it's a matter, the author side of it and how they look and how each note is done is very different, and this year's, after a full year of looking at different road books from basically around the world and then going back and getting to see, I was actually excited to see the road books at Baja Rally this year, because the road books, to me, at least from a visual perspective, are very organized and I think put together compared to some of the stuff that I'm seeing. Now, that's not knocking other events. You got to remember, it's an author. And they talk about this, getting in the author's head. When you're doing, like, say, a Dakar rally with 15 stages, there's multiple people writing those road books. It's not just one person creating them. So you have to like, you get into the room. Oh, this is this guy's. Yeah, he doesn't like putting notes like this, or they don't like doing that, And so that's something that you got to watch out for. But anyway, so going back is first, I know my skill set. I know that I can go out and ride. I know where my feet are supposed to be. I know where my hips are supposed to be. I know all of that stuff, but am I actually practicing it? So one of the first things is going to be okay, well, let's get into riding shape. Let's do a realistic assessment of my riding and where I'm at. Like, am I off to a good start? Because like they say in anything, right? Oh, 10,000 hours and you become an expert in this, that's what it takes to do it. Okay, cool. But 10,000 hours is a long time on a dirt bike. I'm at the back of the pack on that one, but I do some adventure riding and I understand the mechanics of it. And yeah, am I going to be as fast as a Colton or a Kieran or Arturo Salas or Edgar Cota or any of those guys? No. But if I can ride in an efficient manner where I'm not having to think, and this is where it ties together, if I don't have to think about, are my feet in the right position? Why do my hips hurt? Why is my wrist bothering me? Why are my arms so tired? Or having to think constantly about the terrain and, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, or, oh man, I hate this section. Oh, all of that is all mental. And so when you have that and you're focused on mental, you're using your mental capacity for riding, how much of that is left? The cup only holds so much water. And so if you're using it all up, just to be able to ride, then how much you got left for actually navigating? And there's, it at one point, and I've done this before. This was a few years ago where Gnarly Dave and I did a ride out in the high desert and we started to get rained on. And I remember the shift where it went from, it was really weird. It went from, I know I'm pushing myself. In other words, yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm this, but obviously I need to make it to the end. And then it started to rain. And then the hero dirt came in. And then the mental shift. Like, this is an adventure. This is absolutely awesome. I can't believe I get to do this. And so from there, it was like game. Now it was all of a sudden, it was just fun again. It was just, that was it. I was like, oh my God, this is the funnest thing ever. I'm having so much fun. You know what I completely forgot about? How tired I was, that my hands hurt, that it was cold, that it was all of that stuff. And again, it taught me that mental thing. And so as goes life, that, sometimes it's just your matter of perspective and the life and what you're viewing things or how you're seeing things. Now, all of a sudden it becomes one of those things where it's like, well, wait a minute. It's just how I'm thinking about this. So that's the life lesson side of it and what I'm looking to get out of this. But basically is, okay, it's time to start riding. It's time to put miles on the Cove, get used to the bike, get familiar with the bike, and then find out where my capabilities lie. My goal is to be able to ride consistently. I asked Scotty the other day, he oversees the road books and kind of gives the final on it, as he always does on that. But again, if you think about it, that check and doing those things that he does along with the team have consistently year over year put together road books that everybody, thumbs up. I mean, says that they're a really good book. So the question was, okay, well, how long, what's the average stage length on it? And for this year's event, it was roughly about 230 kilometers. For those playing the home game, for every 10 kilometers, it's about 6 miles. So you're looking at 18 miles there, and then 6.2, so 62, 124, and then plus those 16, so about 100 and it's 4:45 in the morning, so I can't math right now. But okay, so you got to be ready for a 260 mile day. You got to be able to ride roughly about 260 miles. That's my goal, right? If I can run, or if we, let's switch back into kilometers, right? If I can run 300 kilometers consistently, then I feel like that's going to put my ability into, okay, it's like, if you guys follow boxing, right? And one of obviously he kind of became a household name, was Manny Pacquiao. One of the things that Manny Pacquiao did was when he would train, the fights that he would do, the mock fights, were like double the length of a normal fight. So what that means is that by the time they get to round 12, he's basically halfway through his training. So that would give him the endurance to be able to basically go all out and still have gas left in the tank. And so that's my kind of mentality. It's like, okay, well, if I can get my riding to the point where it's a 300 kilometer day or 246 miles is light work, is just like, okay, yeah, I feel good. I'm not questioning whether I'm getting on the bike tomorrow or not. But once you get to that point, then it's like, okay, well, now it becomes easier to navigate. And now I've switched. I'm no longer surviving the ride of it. I'm now switching more to where I'm looking at the road book and doing that stuff and being more critical of that. So that's kind of the first step, right? Is to get into shape, get into the point where putting those days in, being able to ride and do that. And I hope this recipe is like, for a lot of the guys that are maybe looking at this, right? Every year that the Dakar comes around, if you look at the Google search stuff, it's always the same. What does it take to get into the Dakar? How much does it cost to get into the Dakar? Entering the Dakar, entering the 2028. It's always about 2 years out. That's everybody's game plan. It's about a 2-year game plan. So we've talked about this, and in roundabout ways, people have come back and told me this. And in talking to Willem, when Willem was doing his Road to Dakar, where he was getting ready and decoding Dakar basically, and getting that, is people will judge you on whether or not you have done the Dakar Rally. But to the people that know, they don't see the Dakar Rally as the end all be all anymore. Maybe, yeah, they recognize it, but the dreams of like, yeah, I want to do that. It's kind of like, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of time away from home. It's a huge, when I say a lot of money, then I say time away from home. And then I go ahead and go back that up and say, it is a huge investment that pays zero dividends other than mental fortitude, a pat on the ass. And, well done, boys, when you finish, so. And then the thing is that the finishing rate of that, Willem on his first attempt, Mohart on his first attempt, it's not a easy feat. Their rallies. I don't know who has ridden the same rally that Willem and Mo got to ride. Because if where your starting order is, how long it takes you to complete each stage, finishing in the dark and then having to wake up a few hours later to basically get back underway, it really doesn't, it's not the same rally. And so that becomes one of those things where it's like, damn, well, how do you prepare for that? And honestly, I don't think, and kind of going off on a tangent here, but let's rope it back in. Basically, at the end of the day, is we have rallies here in North America for those that are interested in getting into the rally side of things and doing that stuff. And it can be done here. You don't need to go to the Dakar Rally to say you've competed in a rally. And there are rallies here that are world class, that do bring competitors from around the world to come to here, to what's in our backyard. And so I just see it as like, well, if I went to the Dakar Rally, it's because I'm part of the organization or I'm part of a team, not because I'm going to compete in it, because I see it as like, okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Well, here's this huge investment and all this stuff. And some people are that much more adventurous and really need that. And that's totally fine. That's their mentality. But you know what? I just want to go out and ride a little bit, see some cool things, and, and help, help organizations do what they do. And so now the goal is okay, well, physical training, got to do that. And then comes in the roadbook training and doing that and riding roadbooks. So there's going to be some overlap here. And whether you guys, I'm not sure if you guys know this or not, but here in Southern California, we have SoCal Off-Road School. So it's definitely, they've been working on a lot of different trainings and a lot of different things with the different riders in the dual sport community, both on the adventure side of it and also on the straight skinny bike dual sport stuff. You have Edgar Cota, who is one of their trainers and also an Ironman champ in Baja. So it's working with people like that, that you learn things. And I've said this before in previous episodes. Well, we're still on the riding side of it, right? And it's getting used to being able to ride very long distances. And to me, like say, for instance, with Edgar, winning the Baja 1000 with, coming up the peninsula by over 3 hours in the Ironman class. Now, for the first 2 hours, you get lucky. Maybe halfway up the peninsula, you get lucky, right? You have poor form. You've gotten so used to it and all that stuff. But the second half, or at some point, that luck runs out and you become very, very tired. The mistakes start and all of these things. And so I think it's important to learn from people that have accomplished things like that. And so obviously Edgar is on the list, SoCal Off-Road School being right here. I mean, the area that they operate in is maybe 20, 30 miles from me. So they're here and they're close. But then that's also something that working with and doing some classes also with Colton Udall out of Champ Ranch and Champion Adventures. Colton Udall, Honda team, definitely, Baja Rally champ. So he understands the navigating side of it now, and he understands and has understood for a very long time what it takes to win in Baja. And so again, it goes to you have form, you get lucky, and that only carries you so far. But once you focus on how your riding ability, like what you are doing and finding those little tips and tricks, it makes it very, very different. It was on day 2 at the Baja Rally that we were in Catavenia, and we were done for the day. We had closed up shop and we were talking to Colton, and then Kieran kind of showed up, and it was really, really cool. I'm picturing it now. It was really, really cool is that we were just standing around, and it could have been here in the studio and we could have just been talking, and, there was nothing going on, and Colton was sharing, some of the tips and some of the stuff that he knows about riding. I asked a couple of questions about, just kind of form and this kind of stuff. And without skipping a beat, he's like, yeah, if you're doing this and this. And my biggest thing was cornering. And Colton is one of the fastest out in Baja, and being able to take these corners at speeds that veteran racers, say like, I don't know how he does that. And so then it's like, well, I need to ask him about his cornering technique, because if this guy that's fast is asking about that, then we need to know about that. So anyway, so that's kind of the phase 1 of it. Phase 2, obviously, is the roadbook training. My intent is to go and do the Baja Rally classes. Although I sat on through part of it, but I haven't actually done the navigation part of it. My roadbook experience has been more in SoCal Rally and doing that. And so, it's like, okay, well, let's formally do a class and then let's continue down the path. So at the end of the day, as we get closer, and if you guys are going to follow along on this, because we still got 2 months, basically, January is the first month of registration. If you're thinking about doing Baja Rally, that's going to be the first month, right on January 1st is when you can sign up for it. And if you look at the pricing structure, that's usually the best. And then they got a refund policy and blah, 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 right? So the idea is that if we follow through this process, is that we'll be able to line up to this event and go and do this event. And so I think that I think it's a good recipe. It's like, okay, we know about the Dakar. We know about the Africa Eco Race. We know about all of these rallies abroad. Well, first step is, why not let's take a shot at the local events, right? So that's going to be the plan. So it's going to be a little bit of a series. You're going to be hearing more of that throughout these episodes as we continue along with the rally or with the Chasing Waypoints podcast. And then, of course, like I said, talking about some of the technical stuff in the garage behind me, Rally Works garage. Still need to sign for that thing or whatever. But man, yeah, a lot going on, but I'm excited about that because now it's all right. It's time to switch gears. I've been doing this. I've been sitting in the studio. You guys have been seeing me. We're going on. We're over 250 or 260 episodes total, worldwide reach, which is absolutely amazing. And I am forever grateful to everybody that has tuned in, and to those that are going to tune in, about this. So with this, I think we should kind of end this episode. We're at the 35-minute mark, which according to the analytics, that's the average length of a commute in the United States. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, with that being said, this is also an open invite to the guys that just got started in rally, that maybe just competed in their first rally, that, or have their sights set on one of the rallies. Let's talk, let's work together. Let's find out, what your side of the story is and what you're thinking, and collaborate on this kind of stuff. No matter what, it's the motorcycle community. And it's interesting because everybody on motorcycles and on two wheels and that is part of that family or close to that family that is ridden, it's a community because, and you can tell, because when you're riding and you see somebody else on a motorcycle, you acknowledge that person, you wave at them or whatever. You've got the moto wave, right? The two fingers, that kind of thing. And we all know each other, even though we don't. And so now, granted, I should say there's some animosity there between, the trikes and, the Harleys and the scooters and but at the end of the day, we're all riders. And, and I say that, unfortunately, there was an incident here in San Diego where we lost a friend and a part of the community. And it kind of reminds me of that because it was something that I said in an interview, that it's just that we all are a motorcyclist community. And if you're not, but somebody that rides and you have a family member or a good friend that, rides on a motorcycle, you understand them. And by extension, you're kind of part of that family. And so it is always one of those things where if we continue to work together, we come up with the ideas, we become safer riders, we become better riders, and we have better adventures. And so I'm looking forward to, collaborating with people and kind of getting into this kind of thing and maybe getting more people into the sport. And if it's not on the rally side of it, then maybe it's on the dual sport side of it, and creating different events. Baja Adventure Garage is getting ready to do a huge rally event where it's all about waypoints and points. You get points for getting to certain waypoints and checking in and doing that kind of stuff. And it's not it's a points competitive event. It's not it's not one of those things that is timed and you're trying to make it, before a certain hour and that kind of thing. I mean, there's a schedule for it and everything, but I think that it's definitely, something to check out. So there's more to it. It's not just getting behind a roadbook. And so we're going to cover all of that stuff. We got a lot of episodes coming. I'm glad to be back. This has been a long time coming to get back behind the camera, or get in front of the camera, I should say, and get an episode done. And so again, as always, I greatly appreciate everybody that tunes in. Spotify, YouTube, everywhere. We're kind of started to switch gears to primarily post on YouTube, but for those of you listening right now in the car on Spotify or Apple podcasts or iHeartRadio or Amazon Music or any of the other platforms where the show is syndicated on. This is for you guys too. You're the originals, you're the OGs, and I greatly appreciate everything. And so with that being said, it'll make sense when you get there. Enjoy the ride.